Congratulations on making the choice to create multimedia for your classroom. This is a very fun and exciting process that can enhance the learning experience for everyone. Today we're going to be exploring how design and accessibility intersect in order to create high-quality multimedia materials. To do this, first we will review some design and accessibility considerations. Then we will take a look at some practical ways to apply these principles. And finally, we will discover some great tips to keep in mind throughout our creative process. So let's get started. Multimedia can be broken down into three basic components: textual or written word-based content, audio or sound-based content, and visual or picture-based content. While these categories often work together and overlap, it is important to consider each one individually. For text-based content, the first thing to consider is the appearance. This includes the font, size of the font, and the color. The most important aspect of a font is how easy it is to read. The font I've chosen here is cute, but it could be difficult for some students to read. If students can read something easily, it lightens their cognitive load and frees them up to focus on the content rather than struggling to figure out what something says. So let's find a better option. I am using Canva and I want to change this font. I want it to be more readable. Now when I say readable, I want a font whose letters are very clear and very easy to recognize. Some of these extra loopy, fancy things are very cute, but they can be a little bit problematic. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to choose a sans serif font. I really like how they look and how easy they are to read. It does not mean that all of them are created equal though. Let's take a look at this one for example. This one can be cute for a design project, but the letters are kind of stretchy and it still might be a little bit difficult to read. So I'm just going to choose something very simple and very clear. This is a good example of a clear and easy font to read. We also want to consider the size of the letters. We're talking about how big the letters are and how much space is between them. So let's take a look at some different examples. So here we are in Canva again, and I actually think this is a really good example of an appropriate size. It is very easy to read even from far away. The letters are clear, and the most important word is the largest. So my eyes are directly drawn to that. Now to show you how a smaller font might not work in this case is something like this. I can read this, yes, but it's going to be a little bit more difficult and it's not going to really show me what is important on the page. So I'm going to change that back and also show you how letter spacing is important. If letters are too close together, it becomes unrecognizable. Conversely, if the letters are too far apart, it is difficult to make a coherent word out of it. So it's important to look at these settings and adjust them appropriately. Another important aspect is the color of the text. For our color, we want to choose something that is high contrast and easy on the eyes. Let's take a look at some examples. Let's take a look at the word color. The word color here does stand out and is pretty easy to see from the background, in my opinion. If I were to take the color of this font and make it a lot lighter, it would be much more difficult to see and recognize. So I want usually a color that is very different from the background color and very easy to see. Now, one way to check this, because a lot of resources don't have a built-in accessibility checker for color, we can use a resource like this. This web page is a very good resource to check if your material is going to be accessible or not. So down here, we can come to color contrast checker. And what we can do is we can input the two colors that we are comparing, and we can see their contrast ratio, and we can also, if we scroll down, see if it passes accessibility standards and what level they pass at. So down here, I'm going to input my two colors. So my first color, I'm going to grab this color reference number and I'm going to paste it into the first box, and then I'm going to grab my background color. I'm going to copy this reference number and paste it into this box as well, and I'm going to click enter. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of a problem here. Down here it says that we failed to meet these standards. For large text, it will pass, so I'm guessing that it would be better if I made this color a little bit darker. So what I can do over here, I can come to this little scrolling bar and I can either make it lighter or darker. And so I'm going to make it a little bit darker until it passes all of the standards. And then I'm going to copy this reference number and I'm going to come back into here and I'm going to choose the color here and I want to change it, so I'm going to paste the color I just copied and I'm going to use that one instead. So that is one way to check. You can use this to check PowerPoint or Canva, as neither one of them have an accessibility color checker. I will include a link for this at the end of the presentation. Another aspect of color to be aware of is the issue of color blindness. Sometimes using colors such as red and green or red and blue together right next to each other can pose some difficulty for some people. One way to check this is by using a color blindness simulator. You can come to this resource. Again, I will link this in the description, and you can copy or paste your file into here and you can see how it would be perceived by different people. Another way to check is by looking at your material in black and white. If you remove the color, is there any important content that's lost? Any important meaning that's lost? If there is, you might want to increase the contrast or change it somehow to highlight the most important information. Next, for the audio aspect of multimedia, it's a little bit more straightforward. The first thing we consider is the quality. We want to be sure that our words are very clean and clear, easy to understand and hear from anywhere, but also that our background is nice and quiet. We don't want any extra noises like this. So even if you don't have professional recording equipment, you can make sure that you are in a very quiet area to record your videos. Another thing we want to keep in mind with audio is to always include a transcript. Whether it is an audio only or an audio visual file we are creating, a transcript will allow that material to be accessed by anyone. For an audio visual transcript, we want to be sure to include a description of any kind of pictures or other visual elements that are included in our material so that someone who is not looking at the material can still get all of the necessary information and understand what's going on. And for our visual component, we really want to keep in mind the concept of relevance. In addition to all of the principles that we've discussed so far, keeping those in mind, we also want to make sure that any kind of visual we use is very clear and easy to see, and that it is related directly to what we are talking about. So there's no extra information and no distractions. To sum up, let's go over some best practice tips. First one, always plan ahead. Being aware of how to make your materials more accessible in the planning process will save you a lot of time later. 2, use checklists. You can find a lot of checklists on the W3C website or even the websites that I'm going to link at the end of the presentation. These checklists and different tools will help you as you create your material. And finally, when in doubt, ask your students what they need. It's impossible to plan for every single need that is going to arise. So asking your students how you can help them succeed is one of the best things that you can do to adapt your material so that more people can be included. Thanks for listening and have a great day.